signal work? Brandon Docks is one of the busiest places on the whole island. Ships with cargo were loaded and unloaded all day and all night. Salty, the new diesel engine, is very proud of the docks. It works very hard indeed ever since he went on his first day after he had worked at the China clay pits. On this day, Edward had loaded freight cars from the clay pits. He shunted them into the sidings and waited for the signal to change so that he could go and collect more that were empty. As he waited, he talked to Salty. "Hello, Salty," he whistled. "You look very busy today."
"I'm always busy,"
panted Salty. "Are you all right?" Edward asked. "You look like you need a rest tonight."
"Certainly no, matey," Salty replied. "Since it was my first day, I worked around like clockwork, and I only get a rest when I have time to visit the sheds."
And just then, Salty closed his eyes and ran his train into the buffers. He woke up with a startle.
"Well, blow me down!" he exclaimed. "What's happening?"
Edward felt sorry for Salty. He wanted to help him, but he couldn't figure out how to do so. Then the signal would turn to his favor, and Edward puffed away. It wasn't long before he arrived at his station, Wellsworth, and on the platform stood Sir Topham Hatt.
"Hello, Edward," he said. "What's the matter? You do look glum."
"Said Salty was new here, sir," answered Edward. "I'm worried about him right now. You see, he doesn't get much sleep from all that hard work at the docks." And he explained about Salty's buffer incident. Edward asked Sir Topham Hatt if there was a way to help.
"Yes," he replied. "Just leave it to me, Edward. Salty will soon be the best rested engine on the island."
The next day, Sir Topham Hatt went to see Salty.
"I hear you haven't been getting enough rest," he said. "Aye, sir," wheezed Salty. "I want you to go to the engine works for a few days to have your warm parts mended." "Thank you, sir," said Salty happily. "That would be wonderful." "But since I worked here at the docks on my first day, who will take over?"
"Edward will be looking after your jobs while you're away," said Sir Topham Hatt. And so it was settled. Salty went to the engine works for a rest, and Edward took over his jobs. During this time, the docks became even busier than before. There were more ships, more freight cars, and more trucks coming and going all day and all night. Edward was finding it hard to cope. "Phew!" panted Edward. "Now I know why I thought he was so tired. I will even be here for a few days, and I'm starting to feel tired." But little did Edward know that this was all part of Sir Topham Hatt's plan. However, he was soon looking aware that something was up when the docks started to look different. Here, the driver knew about it. "What's going on, Charlie?" Edward asked. "I don't know," replied his driver. "I'm sure Sir Topham Hatt knows it was something that turned out sooner or something." And indeed he did. "Edward, today is the day. Salty comes back, and I would like you to stay out of sight until you hear the signal." Edward was puzzled. "Well, signals don't make noises, sir," he said. Sir Topham Hatt laughed.
"Oh, I mean, when you hear Salty arrives."
Edward understood what Sir Topham Hatt had meant as he walked away. Although Edward was confused at what he had just heard. "How come I hear the signal when I only hear Salty comes?" he wondered. "Salty isn't a signalman at all. He's an engine." Then Edward did know that there was an engine approaching, and it was coming from the other side of the docks. When Salty arrived, it was very quiet.
Where's Edward?" Edward asked Cranky. "He can't be finished."
Before Cranky could answer, he was distracted by something.
"Wait a minute," he said. "This looks different."
He spotted some steam in the sky.
"That must be Edward,"
Cranky gasped.
"Salty, you better go after him." "Right away, matey,"
Salty responded back, and he hurried away. Salty found Edward and Sir Topham Hatt next to a brand new shed.
"Salty, this is your new shed," he said.
"Thank you, sir," smiled Salty.
"Edward helped too, of course."
"Thank you too, mate Edward. I had no idea I would come back to this." "Any time, Salty," said Edward happily. "I just waited for the signal, which is you finally arrived."